You're watching Mick and T Sports Report on CHCO. And now, here's two guys who just got back from the Beijing Olympics, where they finished last in the men's luge, Evan and Joe.
I'm Joe Ticotsky down in New Haven, Connecticut.
I'm Evan McFarlane, currently sitting in my fourth of 4 days of lockdown isolation in Prince Edward Island before I'm allowed to go out in public.
Oh my, and this is episode 33 of Mick and T Sports Report. And as Mark mentioned in the opening, we're getting up there. We just got back from the Beijing Olympics where we finished last in the men's luge.
I told you we had a better chance in men's pairs ice dancing.
I still think we would have beaten the Latvians if our goggles didn't get fogged up on that last turn. It's always something. Oh, man. All right. Well, let's go right. We got some cleanup stuff to do. Let's go right to our Super Bowl predictions. And which just ended the other day as we take this. There were 7 people that entered our contest this year, and we'll let you know how they did. Evan, why don't you start us off?
All right. Well, the first losers coming up here were the first 2 people eliminated in the wild card weekend. Mike Ganter, sports writer for the Toronto Sun, who picked the Cowboys.
Ooh.
And Brad Henderson from St. Andrews, Humboldt, New Brunswick, the mayor. I mean, you got to love his push for my team, but there was no way the Pats were going to get to the Super Bowl this year. I appreciate the thought, though.
He was down. Then in the divisional round the following weekend, we had one more person eliminated, Kier Knutson, who was on our show from Dark Tickle Expeditions in Newfoundland, picked the Packers. Gone. All right.
I thought that was a good pick for a while until I realized that Aaron Rodgers was still there. In the conference finals, 2 more people were X'd out. We had Dave Vaughn from Vaughn Snowboards pick the 49ers, and yourself, Joe, who happened to pick Kansas City. Tough.
Man, that Mahomes. But now on to the winners. We had 2 people left standing to pick the correct winner of the Rams. One was Doug Watkins, who's from our graphics company, W4C. And the other is the man on the other side of the screen here, Mr. Evan.
Your boy.
He did.
I don't know. Something about that Rams team, man. I like them. I've always been a huge Matt Stafford fan, too. I liked him when he was in Detroit. I know Detroit was just god-awful, but the guy deserved a break at some point. And they had to work to get that, too. I mean, that OBJ injury was huge.
Yeah. So congrats to you. And besides you and Doug getting their name on our winner's trophy, our 2 winners will also get 10% off their next purchase at the Pita Pit in Moncton.
Nice.
There we go. On Pita Pit, come for the pitas, stay for the lively conversation between the 2 sketchy guys sitting in the corner.
Perfect. I'll send you my Venmo later so you can give me the money from the pool.
There you go. All right, let's move right on. We got a nice new design here. Let's move on to Music Spotlight. And just so you know, just to give you a cleaner listen, once we mention the group, you will see their picture and the clip from the song. So you won't have me fiddling around with my phone, and you won't have Evan dancing on his side of the screen.
I knew the day was coming. I can't believe I made 32 episodes with me dancing.
All right, you're up first. Who do you have?
Sure. I'm going to stick. This is starting to call Evan McFarlane's Atlantic Canadian band group Spotlight. So I'm going to go with a band called In-Flight Safety, and their song's called Coast is Clear that we're going to do. They're originally from Sackville, New Brunswick, but now they're based at Halifax. Pretty cool band.
Okay, let's take a listen to Coast is Clear from Flight Safety.
There's love in the air, it's your feet, they're on the ground, you're running out of time. I guess you'll have to lose to find. And oh, it's such a shame, this game of hearts and placing blame on the prevailing winds that take you far from him now.
Before we end Music Spotlight, I just wanted to briefly mention the recent passing of the singer Meatloaf and sort of a connection I have. A good friend of mine, Chris Linwall, who coaches basketball, when he first started out, coached softball at a small high school in Redding, Connecticut. And lo and behold, his assistant coach for 2 years was Meatloaf, believe it or not. His daughter was on the high school team and they were looking for someone to help out. And I just spoke to Chris recently, and he said the guy was just awesome. You know, I mean, to be a high school kid and have Meatloaf singing on your team bus on the ride home from a game is pretty interesting stuff. So little RIP to Marvin Aday, known as Meatloaf.
Did he sing the national anthem at all the games?
I don't know how long it would have gone on for, a little dramatic reading there, but all right, that's music spotlighting. Coming up next, we interview a physiotherapist from Montreal who has developed a very interesting sports app we think you'll be interested in. You are watching Mick and T's Sports Report on CHCO-TV in St. Andrews, New Brunswick. Welcome back to Mick and T's Sports Report on CHCO-TV. Our first guest is originally from the Moncton area in New Brunswick, but midway through high school, she moved to Ontario to play basketball at the National Elite Development Academy. After that, she played at Laval University in Quebec City and was then on the junior national team and the developmental national team. Since then, she has been all over the world as a physiotherapist with the Canadian Junior Women's National Basketball Team and is currently based in Montreal, where she's the creator and owner of Pro Athlete Physiotherapy. Let's welcome in Elyse Jobin.
There you go.
Welcome to the show.
I was expecting a train wreck there, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. We have a lot of questions to ask about your business, so we will get going. You were pretty much a lifelong basketball player in New Brunswick, Ontario, and Quebec. What made you decide to become a physiotherapist?
I think I just, when you play sports for so long, I think when you're younger, you kind of want to keep going in that direction. I loved, obviously, sports, training, just having an active lifestyle, I think was important for me. And as far as school was concerned, everything that was related to the human body, kinesiology, biology, I really loved actually all those courses. And I thought about going into medicine when I was a bit younger. I just kind of figured out it wasn't for me. So I really wanted to stay involved in sports, help athletes, but also just help humans, I guess, get better and get over injuries and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I decided to aim for physio. And I'm really glad I did, honestly. I work in a clinic, I work with athletes, lots of variety, and I love my job. So I'm really happy about it.
Okay, just for our audience, there's no difference between a physiotherapist and a physical therapist, correct?
Yeah, correct. So the thing, I think it's a physiotherapist is more, I would say, maybe the international word, and physical therapist seems to be what people in the US say for physiotherapists. And usually people, I think physios have a master's degree. I think in some states it takes a PhD now as well. But generally, I think it's pretty much the same thing, just different terminologies depending on the country.
You can say it was dumbed down for the American audience.
I will not say that.
Evan, you have a question?
Yeah, maybe tell us a little bit about your company, Pro Athlete, and the app that you've gone on to create.
Yeah, for sure. So I created Pro Athlete when I had the idea when I started working with the junior women's national team. I didn't only have a role as a physio for injury assessment, rehab, all that kind of stuff. They also trained me for injury prevention. And I thought that was really important and really interesting. And at the time, I worked with a lot of teams in Quebec City as well. And I just saw such a huge need for injury prevention, not only with the national team, but with just every basketball team that has young athletes, and especially those teams actually. So I started, giving workshops for coaches. So how to warm up properly, what kind of exercises should you be doing on a daily basis to help with ankle sprains, ACL sprains, all that kind of stuff. How to squat properly, how to lunge properly. So just very simple workshops, but that they could apply on a daily basis with their athletes. And that's when they were like, okay, well, this is all nice, but it'd be fun if we had some video content that we could use on a daily basis to help, apply those principles, not only maybe the month after the workshop, but on a daily basis throughout the whole year. So that's when the app idea came along. At first, I kind of thought it was a big project to take on. I wasn't really sure about it, but so many people were talking about having more resources and everything. So I really went for it. Obviously, I did my research before I got into it, but that's how I came to develop the app.
Okay. Are you a proponent, growing up, are you a proponent of kids playing multiple sports? And if they do at some point want to specialize, what age do you suggest they sort of make that split?
So I am a fan of multi-sports. Obviously, that's what I did when I was younger. I was barely injured throughout my whole career. I mean, I had a fracture, but usually that's pretty accidental. But I just see in general that kids who play lots of sports, they're stronger, they have better control, all the balance exercises, they're usually better than people who have specialized younger. So overall, I find they're better athletes, which make them less prone to injuries. So I am a fan of that. However, I find in our school system these days, they kind of make you pick a sport when you get to high school. And in Quebec, especially, high school starts at 12 years old. So it's very, very young. So it's hard to say don't specialize if you get to a high school and you only have that option. I would say ideally, it'd be great if they could specialize around 15 or 16 years old, more 16, but I think it's more realistic to say 15 today. I think the ideal way to do things would be to, when people get to high school, if they're under the age of 15, when they have a program, like a sports program, like they call it sport études in Quebec. So it's a mix of you go to school, but you do have some your sport during your school hours. They would have to implement other sports within those periods. So let's say you're in the basketball program, maybe once a week, you should be playing another sport on that day. Maybe when your season's over, you should be tackling other sports. So your motor development is different and has more variety. So I think some programs in Canada actually do apply that, because high school starts a little later. So I think that'd be great, but it's just very hard to change those systems, right? So obviously specializing, it's necessary if you want to go to the next level, to a higher level. I just think it'd be better around 15, 16. So the body adapts better and is less injured.
Yeah. Also, there's the burnout factor of kids just playing. I know basketball where I coach, kids in grade 6 and 7 playing 80 or 90 games over the course of the calendar year. Mm-hmm. And at some point, the love for the sport wanes a little bit. Yeah. Evan, you have an interesting question for Elyse.
For sure. First, before I even ask that, but I agree completely on the dual sports. And I'm going to throw a ruthless plug in here, but I think everybody should play golf in the summer. And I know somebody who can teach it. But my question kind of stems from, I guess, pandemic times, and I'm a strong believer in this stuff too, but how important to you is nutrition and mental health in athletes right now?
It's so important. I think it's something in the past that was neglected a lot. I think with the pandemic, all the mental health aspect of things is taking more place, which is awesome. Nutrition as well. I think all the programs that I work with always have at least 1 or 2 sessions per season to educate coaches and athletes on nutrition. I just think there are so many important pillars that are not only the basketball skills and, shooting properly and getting some, volume in your shots and dribbling and developing all those skills. There's so many different pillars that are important to address as well, because those are the pillars usually that help with your performance. So obviously, if you don't fuel properly, when we talk about nutrition, you might shoot 30% at the 3-point line or even 50%, but if you're not having the proper nutrition, your performance can actually be affected by that. And I would say the same thing about mental health is if you can be the best player with the best skills on your team, but if your mental health is not on point and you don't have the tools or the skills to be on point with your mental health, then your performance is not going to be at your best. So I just think it's very, very important. And it's awesome that you guys are bringing that up, because we need to educate the programs so they actually get those resources, get some professionals to help their athletes with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, actually, Evan and I were a bit surprised to find out that a bag of Covered Bridge potato chips and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper after workouts is not recommended in the U.S. or Canada. You like that Covered Bridge reference, local chip there? Right. Okay, well, her website is phenomenal. I've been checking it out, and some of the video clips and the things you can purchase there, like team rates and stuff like that. And it's really stuff that athletes nowadays are getting into. You can find out much more about her company by going to proathlete.ca, as well as her Facebook and Instagram accounts, which we will have on the bottom of the screen here. She is Elyse Jobin, owner of Pro Athlete Physiotherapy. Elyse, thanks so much for joining us on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. It was great.
You are watching Mick and T Sports Report. We will be right back after the break.
It's time for another edition of Small Town Spotlight here on CHCO-TV. Since CHCO is available on Bell Satellite throughout Canada, you can watch our show on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights if you live in Perth, Ontario, Kamloops, British Columbia, or Melita in Manitoba. And as always, you can watch the show on YouTube. For our 25th edition of Small Town Spotlight, we head 38 hours west of St. Andrews to the province of Saskatchewan and the city of Moose Jaw. With a population of 35,590, the city's name was derived from the town's first sheriff, who the locals nicknamed Moose Jaw for his prominent jaw. Just kidding about that. The city's name actually comes from a Plains Cree word meaning a warm place by the river, and its residents are referred to as Moose Javians, and I swear that is the God's honest truth. And lastly, Moose Jaw was also the birthplace of the late TV personality Art Linkletter. To tell us more about the area, let's welcome in Randy Palmer, sports writer for the newspaper, the Moose Jaw Express. Randy, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Joe.
All right, let's get going. You're originally from Flin Flon, Manitoba. How long have you been in Moose Jaw, and how long have you written for the paper?
Oh boy, I've been here, I'd say, I'm trying to think, since 98. I was at the Moose Jaw Times Herald daily newspaper for about 19 years, and then it shut down. And then right away I got hired over here at the Moose Jaw Express. I've been here about the last 3 or 4 years. So.
Okay. And who are some of the local sports teams that you covered during the year?
The big one's the Moose Jaw Warriors. Actually, right now I'm working on a story about the some stuff that happened last night in the game and that kind of stuff. Western Hockey League team. This is an example of what level they are. They got like 5 NHL drafted players right now. So I mean, that's like, it's a level just below the NHL, below the AHL. It's they're the big team in town.
Okay.
And then
high schools also.
Yeah. High school sports are pretty big. We have 4 high schools in town. One of them is a little bit too small to have regular teams, so they combine with other teams. But then there's a league that encompasses a bunch of smaller communities around Moose Jaw as well. So it's pretty competitive. And I generally have a few provincial champions come out here every year, so it's pretty cool.
Nice. Now, which NHL or and NFL teams do the people in town root for?
NHL teams. Well, a lot of Flames, a lot of Calgary Flames, a lot of Edmonton Oilers fans, just because of proximity to Alberta. A lot of Winnipeg Jets fans, obviously, because especially when they came in the league. The NBA is obviously Raptors. Almost everything's Raptors around here, especially after the last couple of years.
Right.
And then NFL is actually Minnesota Vikings. It's a weird thing. There's a lot of people in town who have actually season tickets for the Vikings. Actually travel down there every other weekend and stuff like that for games. So
How far away is that?
God, I think it's 12 and a half hours, but they don't care. They're just happy to go down and be purple people eaters, I guess, or something.
Yeah. And I noticed, I looked up, there's some famous former NHLers from Moose Jaw,
Yes.
former New York Islanders and New Haven Nighthawks goalie Glenn Chico Resch, former head coach and GM of the Rangers, who was also once GM of the Hartford Whalers, Emile the Cat Francis, and Clark Gillis, who played for the Islanders and unfortunately just passed away recently.
Yeah.
So it's quite a history of locals making the big time there.
Yeah, those guys are legends, especially Clark. He was almost a god kind of thing. You know, it's like every time he came back to town, people would be like, you know, especially if there was a public event with them, people would want to go out and see him, be around him kind of thing. And, you know,
sure. Now I'll give you
the other guys, yeah.
I'll give you a quick NHL quiz. Do you know how Glenn Resch got his nickname of Chico?
I have no clue, but I imagine it's something.
From the old TV show Chico and the Man. He had the same kind of mustache as Freddie Prince.
Wow.
So that's useless information at your next party.
That's a good one.
Let's move on to some local tourist attractions. You know him, you love him. Tell us a bit about Mac the Moose.
Mac the Moose. I guess he was put up around the 80s. They wanted a little extra something another near the tourist center on the edge of the Trans-Canada Highway. They wanted something just kind of stick out. So they put up Mac the Moose. And he's kind of he's about 40, 50 feet tall. There he is. That's the man.
There he is.
Yeah. He looks out over top of the highway and people drive in. You can see actually the 15-wing snowbird actually in the back there too as well.
Okay.
Those are both really popular attractions. Yeah. And then we had the Moose War a couple of years ago. That was kind of funny. I assume you guys heard about that.
That was with Norway, was it?
Yeah. A community in Store Edval, I believe it was in Norway, had this beautiful moose statue, a beautiful silver moose, and it's just like it stands on top of a highway. And it was about 5 feet taller at the top of their antlers. Okay. And word about that got out, and it turned into a bit of a thing. And our mayor actually started a bit of a moose war kind of thing. And so eventually what happened, they built a bigger rack of antlers for Mac. So he's about 2 feet taller now than the moose in Norway. And actually, the mayor of Norway actually came over to visit and came to a Warrior game and hung out. And it was really a cool whole tourism thing. It was really neat. And so Mac's still the tallest moose in the world. So I guess he's got that going for him.
That is wild. Now, you mentioned there's another pretty neat tourist attraction in the city.
Yes, the tunnels of Moose Jaw. There you go. Used to back in the day. See, they didn't look like that back in the day. They were just basic, ways to stay underground and just get back and forth to places. But there are actual tunnels in the city that were used by Chinese folks who work in the rail yards. They would just use those and get back in place, like get back and forth from work to home. And then the bootleggers got into them back in Al Capone days, and so they were using those to run liquor and stuff. I don't even know how that all worked. And jeepers, what was it? It was right around the late 90s. The city decided, you know what, we can make a tourist attraction out of this. So they built it up, and what you do, you just go down underneath. You go into this reception area, and there's, a Passage of Fortune on one side, which talks about all the Chinese immigrants on their experience and stuff like that. So you go down that side, and then the other side's the Al Capone tour, and that's a really cool one. It's got actors and stuff, like old time gangsters and stuff like that. And they're really educational actually, because they tell you all about what happened in those days and that kind of stuff. And they put a lot of effort into them, and it's a really popular thing. I mean, all the businesses around that area do pretty well because there's so many tourists that follow through there. So, and they're pretty neat.
Yeah. Now, here on our small town spotlight segment, we always ask our guests to give us their favorite local non-chain restaurant. Yep. What do you got for us?
Deja Vu Cafe. It's basically, they call it Deja Vu Cafe, a chicken joint, and the whole thing is like it's themed around Al Capone and stuff like that. The mascots and a chicken with a old timey machine gun with a old hat on, so it's hilarious. And the food's absolutely delicious. they've been featured on a couple of TV shows here in Canada, actually, just for like all the different flavors they offer and stuff. It's crazy and really, really popular. You can't go in that place without, being 10 other people in there kind of thing. And good luck trying to, pick up food.
Yeah.
You're gonna be waiting there for 5 minutes or so. 'Cause there it
I
is.
looked it up.
Yeah,
They've got
that's just the milkshakes.
Milkshake. I looked at some of the flavors: rum and butter,
Yep.
Saskatoon berry, and something called Chinese 5 spice.
Yeah. I know Chinese 5 spice. I've heard about that before. Some sort of a cooking ingredient in general. I've never tried that milkshake. It'd be very interesting, but yeah, I don't know. It's but yeah, you look at that list, it's just insane. And the same thing with the chicken flavors there. Yeah, 1,001 of them kind of thing. And
I looked those up too, and a couple of their wet sauces. One is called Ice Gravy,
yeah,
and then Daredevil, which is a mix of orange, ginger, and Worcestershire sauce.
yeah.
And something called Dilly Delight, which I do not even want to know what that is, but I'm assuming it's a good flavor. Well, Randy, if you do ever head down to the US and make it down New York way, as I tell everyone, stop over in Connecticut and I'll treat you to some of New Haven's world famous thin crust pizza.
Yeah. I'm a thin crust pizza guy, man. I would love to do that. Got to get down to New Haven though.
He is Randy Palmer, sports editor of the Moose Jaw Express, the daily newspaper in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. You can follow him online at moosejawtoday.com. I've checked it out. It's an excellent publication. Randy, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you very much, and happy to be able to tell you a little bit about Moose Jaw.
And we're back. And another one out of that fantastic collection of tarps that you usually wear in your interviews. Man, I would ask whose jersey that is, but if I didn't know an LT jersey when I saw it, I wasn't a football fan. Like, where did you come across that beauty?
That is my old LaDainian Tomlinson t-shirt here, or
Awesome.
shirt rather. And I don't know where I got it. It's got to be 20 years old. Believe it or not, it still fits me. At one point it didn't, but now it does. So yeah, good interview with the guy from Moose Jaw. And in that interview, we spoke briefly about Clark Gillies being from Moose Jaw. And this is a true story. This is a classic. When a reporter once asked Clark where Moose Jaw was located, he said, 6 feet from the moose's ass. I swear he said that. And with that, let's move directly to our shout outs. Who do you have?
I'm going to keep mine broad-based again. Shout out to anybody from my era who was out of their seat dancing during the Super Bowl halftime show, like myself.
Okay, there you go. It was a nice.
You live in the old days, man. If Dr. Dre and Eminem don't want to make you run through a wall, you've got some issues.
Good one. I will do for my shout out to all of, as March Madness is coming up, all of my coaching friends who are getting ready to start the state high school tournament in early March. So Brian, Rob, Allie, Scott, AJ, Vinny, Fred, sounds like a bad gang. Good luck, and remember, no technicals, please. No teas. All right, well, that's it for episode 33 of Mick and T Sports Report. I am Joe in New Haven.
And I'm Evan here in Prince Edward Island.
Thanks to CHCO-TV station manager Patrick Watt and editor Flo Chart Mitchell. Chart. Patrick and Flo do a superb job of producing and editing a show that's often referred to as the TikTok of Canadian community television, which I guess means most viewers can only take it in 10 to 20 second intervals. All right, now that we've once again come to the end of yet another show, we'll leave you with peace, love, and Mac the Moose. This is Mick and T Sports Report on CHCO-TV. We'll see you next time.